Apple is usually pretty good at realizing what customers want, right? There's not many products that Apple release that are total stinkers besides maybe like the Vision Pro. But in Apple's defense, VR has had trouble everywhere. It's too expensive, and there's not enough to do in VR to make people want to buy it. And Apple's VR couldn't even do VR gaming, and if they just did that, it would have helped them a lot in my opinion. But Mark Gurman, a notorious Apple leaker who is 86% correct, wrote an article on Bloomberg about how Apple is working on a tabletop video conferencing machine that's like an iPad on a robotic arm. And this makes me think that Apple is actually unbelievably desperate internally, because this is an insane product and not in a good way. So this project is being spearheaded by the guy who worked on the Apple car, which was also canceled after Apple dumped like billions of dollars into it. But honestly, it makes sense. Autonomous vehicles were a lie made by Elon Musk. They're not going to be a thing for a long time. But they're leading this project to basically build an iPad with a robotic arm that moves around and like follows your voice. The actual device won't move. The screen just does. It would spin 360 degrees and the display would be able to tilt up and down. So like if you were talking to this thing, it could like follow your voice and turn around and stuff. It's not like a terrible idea, at least until you get to the price that Apple's going to charge for this thing. They want to charge $1,000 for this. Keep in mind, this thing is basically just a neutered iPad, because the whole idea with this thing is you never have to touch it or interact with it. You talk to it, right? And they want to use Apple Intelligence to do this. So the whole concept around this device is basically a office machine that only exists for video conferencing that uses Apple Intelligence, which still isn't released yet, and also had some delays because they had issues with it, right? So down the line, Apple might try to push this thing for $1,000, and all it really does is answer FaceTime calls. That's insane. Apple's actually losing their mind a little bit, I think. Also, please hit the like button down below, subscribe if you're new. I'm trying to hit 500K, please and thank you. I'm honestly really confused why they're trying to do this. It's actually kind of shocking, because really, it just seems like a horrible idea. Like, can you think of a single person who would buy something like this? Because I can't. My first thought was, oh, maybe streamers would use something like this, but then I was like, wait, if you need a camera that follows you, there's way better options for way cheaper. I just can't see many situations where someone would want a standalone device like this for mainly video conferencing. Now, people who work on it also say it's for like home security and basically being like a command center for your smart home, which sounds kind of cool, right? But why would most people ever spend $1,000 on a smart home command center? This really just does seem like a product executives would think people would want, but no one actually wants. Because I can't think of a single situation where you need to talk to somebody over FaceTime and it's easier to use this over your phone or something. And they do want this thing to primarily be voice controlled, so they're banking a lot on Siri not being dumb with the new Apple Intelligence update, which currently still does not exist. And everything I've seen regarding Siri and Apple Intelligence is that she's still stupid. Siri's still dumb. Like, I understand that Apple Intelligence is a beta, right? But it is kind of crazy seeing the lack of polish from Apple recently in all their products and all their developments, because it's just not Apple-like to release unfinished stuff. They just don't do it. Even their betas are more stable than a lot of releases of actual, operating systems. So it is very weird for Apple to be betting so much on unproven technology that they don't even know if they can get it to work, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. Now, it's also not crazy for a company to try products and develop stuff in the background and never release it, okay? This product could never be released because it is a bad idea. I really don't understand why they're even workshopping this. Because, like, here's the thing. Apple tried this. They made the HomePod speakers. They did not sell well. So why do they think that people are gonna buy one with a screen? It's a HomePod speaker with a screen. Why are people gonna buy this one? Because they can do a 360? And I understand why Apple's a little desperate, okay? It kind of makes sense. The EU and the US are simultaneously clamping down on their main revenue sources, which are companies paying them to do nothing. Like, Apple's getting billions of dollars a year from Google for just making them the default search engine, right? And that can't happen anymore because Google's been deemed a monopoly. And then on top of that, the EU is getting really frustrated with Apple with the 30% pay cuts of everything purchased on an iPhone. And then Apple's main source of revenue, their iPhone sales, are also going down. So I see why Apple's panicking a bit, okay? But Apple, this is not the move. This is such a stupid product. I am genuinely shocked that this even made it to development. Even if this thing could talk like a person, why would you need it or want it? Like, even if you told it, hey, do this exact thing perfectly, and it just did it, what's the point? I have a phone, right? And my phone also has Siri. So what's the point in this device? I am actually so confused. At least with the Apple Car, I saw like a market. Like, I saw people that would want the Apple Car regardless if it sucks or not, right? Like, there's a lot of people that would have bought the Apple Car over a Tesla, guaranteed. But this thing, a HomePod speaker with a screen on it that moves around, I don't know who would buy this? I can't think of a single type of person who would buy this. Okay, I mean, obviously the Apple fanatics would buy it, but I mean like a reasonable person who owns an iPhone who likes Apple but like isn't crazy about it. Like, why would they buy this? There's no real reason. They'll look at it and they'll think, oh, so it's like my iPad, but worse. Or they'll be like, oh, so it's like my iMac, but worse. Because this thing would look kind of like an iMac. It would just be infinitely less useful. And one of the weirder parts about this too is the fact that the guy that's heading this project is also the same guy who launched the Apple Watch. Why does Apple think this product has a future? I am actually confused. They're betting on this like there's a market that's going to exist, and I don't think it's going to exist. And according to Mark Gurman, which is where all this information is coming from, by the way, just so we're clear, Apple marketing is also concerned no one will buy it, and I think they're right. It's $1,000 and it's a rotating screen on a speaker. What is the point of it? Who is the target audience, man? Also, to sell this product, you're gonna have to convince people that Siri is not lobotomized after 20 years of Siri being lobotomized. This is gonna be a really hard sell because Apple's gonna be trying to convince everyone that this thing you talk to get it to do things won't mess things up, when Siri, for everyone's lifetime, has only messed things up. But it is genuinely crazy seeing Apple seemingly so desperate, because like, I've never seen Apple like this. Apple, when I was a child, was in its infancy, right? So I only saw the rise of Apple. I've never seen them really stumble or fall. I've seen Microsoft do that, and honestly, it's pathetic. So seeing Apple do it now is really interesting, because what do the executives think they need to do if their main sources of revenue that they've had for 20 years start plummeting, right? And what these executives think they need to do is make a HomePod speaker with a screen on it. It's just insane to me. Like, this is one of the richest companies to ever exist, right? And their solution to declining revenue is a HomePod speaker with a screen on top of it. Now, as I said earlier, this might never release. And I hope for Apple's sake, they don't release this, because Apple is starting a trend of releasing stinker products. And if they do this too much, people are gonna start not liking them. They're gonna be perceived as not cool. And once iPhones aren't cool anymore, Apple just lost the grip on America, okay? And there's also a few smaller leaks from this article. Like, for example, Apple is reportedly working on augmented reality glasses, which would be like smaller versions of the Vision Pro, or just more affordable in general. I think those would actually do well. I think the biggest issue with the Vision Pro was price. If it was like $1,000, everyone would have bought one. It was the fact that it was so absurdly expensive for basically nothing. Like, yeah, it's cool, Apple, but what can it do? Nothing. It can't do anything. And then Apple's apparently also making a new version of AirPods that have cameras on the outside of them, so they have a better sense of the outside world, which is also very interesting. I don't know how that one will play out, like, at all. That one's like up in the air for sure. It's kind of an interesting concept, and I wonder if it would actually help or not. If it helps and makes the experience better, I don't really see a big problem with it, but having cameras on the outside of your AirPods is kind of sketchy, and that'd be like really interesting walking around and seeing everyone with cameras outside their ears, you know? That's kind of weird. I'm assuming they won't be for recording things, right? But still, kind of weird. I assume you can hack into them and record stuff with them, because why wouldn't you be able to? But yeah, Apple's trying a lot of different things apparently, because remember, these are leaks. Mark Gurman is usually correct, but there's still sometimes he's not correct. And who knows, man, maybe Apple leaked this horrible device to get people's opinion on it. Because out of the leaks here, this device definitely has the most detail, right? So maybe Apple purposely leaked it to get people's opinion on it, because yeah, it's a stupid product. Like, I'm really struggling to see a market for this product, because like $1,000 for something like this, you could buy like a super nice TV. That is like really nice TV money. That's like a nice computer money. That's nice anything money besides like a car and a house. But like, you could buy like a nice version of anything for $1,000 pretty much. Why would it be a HomePod speaker? Why? But that's just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like and subscribe down below. Follow me on Twitter at spatnz1, and click the answer sound, check out all my content, and have a good one.